This is Matthew Boulton's manufactory in Birmingham, one of the key sites of the Industrial Revolution. And this is the site today. How much of it remains under all these houses and factories and back gardens and concrete car parks? And can Time Team find any of it in just 3 days? Years ago, the world's very first steam-powered mint would have stood somewhere around here among what's now a network of back gardens. And then last year, archaeologists discovered the actual wall of the mint building up here, and they also found a rather mysterious tunnel. Mick.
Oh, Tony.
Where's this tunnel?
Well, this is it.
This?
Yeah.
Down here?
Yeah.
Can I go down?
Yeah, well...
It's not really
a
tunnel,
I don't know whether
is
get
it?
you out again if you...
It's just a trench.
No, but it wasn't like that originally, was it? This is George who's done all the work on the
Hello, Tony.
The maps and so on. He's just explaining to me that we've only got the bottom half bit here.
So what was it for?
What it did is carry a 210-foot cast iron shaft from a steam engine and bringing power to all of the buildings.
Big shaft going
down
through
the
here.
centre,
And
down the centre, on bearings.
Yeah.
That's right.
But what we're trying to do, Tony, is track it that way.
Yeah.
Because it's on the way in that direction to power the workshop up there.
And where are we in relation to the whole factory?
Well, look, if we look at George's map here, because George has done a hell of a lot of work on the sort of the regressive map analysis, you know, trying to work backwards from what we've got now, which is the street with the houses. And this is your sort of current version, isn't it, of where we think we are.
So where
this
are we?
is where we're standing just there.
Yeah.
That's a trench that was dug earlier. These are the mint buildings.
Yeah.
But these buildings here have all been taken out by a sand pit during the First World War.
Yeah.
This is the track of that tunnel all the way down from about where we are, all the way to the centre of the cutting out room where the blanks were cut out for the coins.
So we're going to pursue it down here?
We're chasing it all the way down.
We're off. Phil's somewhere over here now.
He's working about there. It's about
so
150
Phil
feet.
is
over there.
Over there somewhere.
Are you going to go off and see him?
Oh, yeah. So our mystery tunnel contained a long metal shaft and was part of the manufactory's coin mint that once stood somewhere in the gardens behind me. The shaft took power from a steam engine 150 feet to another factory building where more machinery cut out coin blanks. If George is right, we should find the remains of that cutting out room in whichever garden Phil's in. Phil? Where are you?
Just clearing away the patio.
Have you got any of the tunnel there?
By the looks of it, it's coming into this conservatory. Can you see the conservatory?
Looks as if it's coming through right into this.
I mean, if the shaft tunnel comes through there, now that is a really big building. We should have it underneath the patio here.
Well, listen, if the shaft goes through the house where Stuart is, why are you digging next door?
Because the shaft went into a big building, and we want to actually find that building. And luckily enough, we got permission to take the patio up, so we're ready to go.
Oh, good. With George's help, we've created a 3D plan of the manufactory, which was a collection of buildings and workshops, making everything from shoe buckles to the copper coins that came out of the mint. We're using this to plot the course our shaft tunnel should take across the modern gardens. From our excavation, measuring 150 feet brings the shaft to an end under the conservatory here. So all we have to do now is look for the remains of the cutting out room under the patio next door, where Phil and local resident Dylan Close have already started to clear away the plants, under the watchful eye of Dylan's dad.
Are you sure your dad's not going to mind?
Well, no, he won't mind at all. We really want to know what's down here. We want to see what's happening.
That's all I need to know. Let's get on with
Good.
it.
It's a good job they don't mind, because although our coin blanks were cut out in a big building, This is keyhole archaeology. And it seems the whole of Dillon's patio has to come up if we're going to stand any chance of finding the foundations we're looking for. You like doing this kind of industrial archaeology,
Yeah,
don't you?
I think industrial archaeology is very important. I mean, it's in the 18th and 19th century, you know, we were the centre of operations in developments of all sorts, and this was a very important site.
Poking around in people's back gardens for an old factory isn't really quite as romantic as looking for Roman villas in the rolling English countryside, is it?
Yeah, but we do the same things, you know.
Why? What's the point?
What do you mean, what's the point?
Well, if we were excavating for something that was medieval or Roman, where there are great big gaps in our knowledge, I can understand why we would want to pour a lot of resources into it. But here, this is an 18th century site, there's loads of maps and pictures and documents. What can we possibly learn extra from digging up the foundations?
It's two separate sorts of evidence. You know, the archaeology on one hand will give you one story, the documents and the maps will give you another one. Usually they're complementary, they rarely overlap absolutely. You know, okay, we've got the documents, we've got the maps and the pictures, but it's going to be very nice just to check that out in a number of places so that we know we've got it in the right place, it's the right size and all the rest of it.
Well, hopefully we will know by the end of Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really good. I'm really looking forward to this.
The manufactory was demolished in 1860, and within 50 years the whole site had been lost, buried by the houses and factories that run along South Road today. At the top of the hill above the site stands the only surviving link with the industrial complex, Matthew Boulton's home, Soho House. It's said that from his bedroom, Boulton could survey his whole manufactory. 150 years later, Carenza and Sue don't have the benefit of this view as they try to align the 18th century plans with the present-day map.
That's the manufactory. That's Soho House up there. I mean, here, this is 1785, so this is just 20 years after the site was first built.
That's lovely.
The problem is, by the time we get to the earliest reliable modern map, which is this Ordnance Survey one, the whole area has been completely demolished. And, well, we know what it's like today. I mean, you can see on this aerial photograph, we've got Soho House, South Road.
So that's all we have to go on is Soho House? And
well,
South...
if we can get all of these maps on, they've each got slightly different bits of information, and the older they get, the more accurately they show the manufactory, but the older they get, the less accurately they show anything that we can map them to today, and the less accurate they are. So if we can take all of these maps and try and overlay them on the computer, and then when we find stuff on the ground, we'll be able to work out what it might be.
Because so few recognisable features from the time of the manufactory have survived onto the modern maps, down on the site we're trying a different approach.
Can you lean right in?
Stuart is surveying the shaft excavation and will relate it to the modern OS map. Any archaeology will be buried under several metres of demolition rubble. Geophys can't help us find it, so we're trying out a different technique, ground radar. This can penetrate much deeper and should reveal any voids under the gardens. Bernard is overlaying all this information onto the old maps of the site, and if all this works, Sue should have no trouble placing the layout of the whole manufactory accurately in today's landscape. Matthew Boulton was in partnership with James Watt, who made some of the world's first steam engines. Any documentation relating to their work is now kept in the archive vaults of Birmingham's Central Library. So it was the first on Robin's list of places to visit.
There are a number of things which we think might help. There's some portfolios here of drawings which relate to the mint site at Soho.
Oh, those could be useful.
Yes, those will be, I think.
Can I let you have
good.
those, Nick? Thanks
okay.
very much.
There's some documents relating to the coinage patent and the
What
establishment of the Soho Mint there.
Yeah.
And some of the letter books, I think, will also be relevant. So, shall we take some of these?
That'll be lovely.
Yeah.
There's got my name on them.
Right.
Back at the shaft tunnel in the gardens behind South Road, Mick and George have extended the excavation backwards in the direction of the Mint, uncovering more of the tunnel in the garden next door.
We've got the same shaft, but it's surviving much better. It's much higher, as you can see on the left-hand side there.
Oh, right, down here?
Yep, just over here.
This
yep.
almost looks as if it's where the arch starts, isn't it?
That's right, it's just starting to lift over.
Right.
And it's giving us, for the first time, the height of the tunnel.
Right, well, you said about 3 feet, didn't you,
about
before?
3 feet,
Yeah.
we're guessing. And when the tunnel collapsed, some of the bigger pieces in this particular section have actually survived, and we've got them.
Oh,
we've got them out here.
Right.
springing points for these arches.
Oh, you can actually see the
right.
curve on that, can't you?
Starting to curve out. So
Yeah.
there's some large bits of masonry are coming up for the first time.
So we can't quite see the mint in that. Is that just off here?
That's just off here. In fact, there's another picture which I think shows it a bit better.
Robin and local historian Nick Molyneux have set up shop in the dining room at Soho House.
So the mint building presumably is in this area, is that right?
That's right. You can see the mint hidden away in the woods for secrecy.
Right.
And we have the cutting out building. They actually didn't stamp out the coins so much as the coin blanks.
Yes,
So they
yes.
get the blank copper and chop little discs out, which they then move into the mint and actually turn into coins.
Right.
And then we can see just beyond here, we see the principal building. And running along the front of the building, we have what is now South Road.
The old drawings linked with the old maps should help graphics build up a complete plan of the site, but this still needs to be tied in accurately with the modern map. 3/4 of the way through day one and we've hit our first problem. The 18th century maps which have given us our only plan of the complex are inaccurate. Each gives the site a slightly different location. But there was more bad news to come, and from the one area we thought was a safe bet, the Ordnance Survey map.
Some of the early survey work we've been doing is starting to identify there may be a problem in the modern mapping.
And modern
as well.
maps.
It's starting to emerge and we've got a lot more work to do, but I suspect there may be some problems.
Presumably George has used those modern maps quite... I mean, he's used the modern maps and the older historical maps to fit the manufacture into the modern landscape, and we've got problems with all of them.
It looks like it, yeah. We're going to have to do a lot more work doing some more precise surveying as well as the precise map work, digitising. We're going to do some precise surveying and see if the modern base map itself is right.
So really it's turning into much more of an archaeological event than we thought, and that we rather confidently thought we could come in, get the maps, work out where the site was, put a trench in and confirm our suspicions. In fact, we've got to go back to basic archaeology, dig the holes, find out what's in the holes, and then try and make sense of it in the same way you would with any archaeological site.
That's right. Good, isn't it? Definite.
While we wait to find out how inaccurate the maps are, Phil and Dylan have found something under the patio.
Woohoo! What have we got there?
Wow.
Bricks.
It is bricks too, isn't it? Oh, and they're mortared in, look. Second course. Oh yeah, what do you think of that then? Look, I mean, it's all going mad here so far. Does that look like natural to you?
That could be a natural, but...
We've got it across here. We've got a cut running along there. And look there.
That's absolutely amazing. The fact that if that's in situ and it's part of the cutting out room, the fact it survived just underneath the
Just
patio
underneath
slab,
the
it's
ground.
just unbelievable.
And what do you think of that?
Oh, these have been cut out. Yeah, these are test runs on bits of bone.
You've seen these from here before, have you?
No, the only thing we've seen are the copper.
Yeah?
We haven't seen anything cut out of bone. Normally it's going to be a strip of copper going through for coinage, but they're just playing just to check out how it's working. It's just literally under the surface. It's absolutely amazing.
All looking pretty good.
It certainly is. It certainly is.
One up for your dad's patio.
From our trenches in the gardens behind South Road, it's difficult to envisage a complex that once stretched 10,000 square yards and covered much of the land now occupied by present-day factories. But because we're in a city, we aren't allowed to fly over the site, so we're using the next best thing, a remote control helicamera.
So we're down this street here, aren't we?
That's right, South Road.
We must be somewhere over where the cutting room was, and those gardens there. Look. We're getting over to where the mint area was now.
Here's
Look.
the gardens.
Over the back of the gardens.
So that's where we dug, isn't it?
That's where we've got the trenches.
So it's stretched a heck of a way.
Remember, you're talking about the biggest factory in the world.
At the time,
At the
yeah,
time.
At the time, yeah.
So far, all our efforts have been concentrated on the back gardens, which, from this angle, are on the left behind the houses. Now, it was time to cross the street and look for the principal building.
We were looking down the street, look. So the main block was on the right, where the
Lining
two
the road.
houses there are.
What, this
Nick, there.
big picture
Yeah.
here, that's...
That's the main facade.
And then what we're reckoning this is where that concrete slab is on the corner of the building is where the end of that building was.
Yeah.
So if we could find the corner, we'd fix the exact position of that block there.
Yeah. So it's the end of day one and we've had a great day. We've extended the shaft, we've found some of the interesting factory buildings and something mysterious under the patio.
Yep.
So join us after the break for day two when we'll be excavating under the concrete. Beginning at day two, and we've hit a problem that I find quite extraordinary, which is that the Ordnance Survey maps for this area are 14 foot out because they're based on older maps which were also 14 foot out. So all George's calculations about what's where on this site are 14 foot out as well. And where we've been digging for the mint and the cutting room over there, we've probably been digging in completely the wrong place. So the big question for this morning is, where the heck do we dig now? What are we going to do?
Well, we're just working out where to dig.
George, you must feel really gutted. For the last few years, you've had all these theories about what's where on your site.
Yes.
And we come in one day and say, oh, I'm sorry, mate, you were completely up the creek.
Well, I don't mind being up the creek if I'm wrong, but we've got to find the building. As long as we find the buildings, and if I'm wrong, it doesn't really matter.
You're still talking about something coming out here. To what? About? Is this why you've marked this marker?
Yeah, it's up.
Somewhere about here?
Just to about here, we think the end wall is somewhere in this area, 6 or 7 metres out.
How did you discover that the OS map was out?
Surveying. The problem is that when the maps were made here, they were very accurately made up on the streets because that's where they could run their measuring lines to map all the features with. Once you get in the big back gardens, as you've seen, it's steep, it's covered in trees, then the danger in those areas is that it's not mapped quite as accurately as it ought to be.
But 14 foot is a heck of a lot. It's not like a little wibble.
It's caused a bit of a problem for everybody because we didn't really expect it to start with, did we? But once we get back to here, where the maps are going to be really very accurate, I think we're coming to a common agreement that this is where we ought to be in this area here.
I mean, can we get the digger driver started here? Because I think we all...
I hope Stuart's right, because as it stands, this forecourt may actually be 14 foot further southeast than it appears on the modern map. And that means our plan of the complex is still floating. We need to find the front wall and the corner of our principal building on the ground to tie it down. But the solution to our problems is under at least 6 inches of concrete.
Hello.
What's happening there?
Well, we're just taking up the concrete. We're just going to open a new trench. You're local around here, are you?
I just live up here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know there was this big old factory complex?
I know there was a factory here, but I don't know where it was located. Nobody knew.
Well, that's what we're trying to find out. With a bit of luck, we're going to try to put a trench right on that corner. That should be underneath here.
Nice to know a bit of history around here, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean, with a bit of luck, you know, when we get into this hole here, we hopefully will find the corner.
11 o'clock and the concrete cap is off. Once the diggers remove the rubble, we'll start digging down in search of that wall and its corner. Let's hope it's where we think it is.
We're excavating just here where the word cellar is marked on the plan, so...
I see here, whoever this is, John Bath, is it? At any rate, he's presumably living at the place where we're excavating on that garage forecourt.
Absolutely so. Yeah. And we can see from the plan that we also have here that we have a plan of the building, and you can see by the date of this plan, which is a little bit later, we have an E. Price living in the house at the front.
Yes.
This wasn't just a building for manufacturing metal objects in, this was also part of the workers' residences. I mean, this is a rather sketchy plan showing the whole manufactory, but we're extremely lucky that just before they demolished the building, somebody drew a set of plans, which we have here.
What kind of date's this?
This is about 1850, just before it was demolished.
We're lucky the plans give us such detailed clues to the layout of our principal building. Unfortunately, there are no detailed plans for the buildings across the road under the gardens, the cutting-out room and the steam-powered mint, which is why George is using the shaft tunnel to try and locate them. And at the excavation in the garden of 142 South Road, he thinks he's found a vital clue to the position of the Mint steam engine and therefore the Mint.
There's a lot happened here since some of you came and saw this yesterday.
Cool. It's changed a bit, Mick.
Right.
It has.
I mean, I think it was basically just this little bit of tunnel down here, but we were pursuing it that way.
We were.
Weren't we, George? Because we thought that's where the beam engine and the well were, in the garden next door.
Yeah, we'd measured from the corner and we thought it was going to be about there, but then when we investigated, it wasn't there.
Is that because of the 14-foot out business?
We're 14 foot out.
Well,
we haven't got the corner of the building.
It looked likely though, Tony, because if I come down here, look, when we found this bit here, it looked as if it was going off in that direction.
Sure.
So we thought, well, it's not in that garden, it must be a bit further over.
Yeah.
But of course, that's a dead end. And so, sort of late yesterday, really, we decided to take a bit of soil off this end. And of course, you can see we came down on this great block with this channel going off in that direction.
I don't understand the mechanics of this. We've got this great spinning thing going along this tunnel.
Yeah.
And what are these right-angle turns?
You've got a diagram.
Let me show you a
George?
drawing, Tony. We're standing here, roughly, with the 3-foot pulley, which is in the ground just there.
So this is the junction leading off to the engine?
This is the junction leading off to the engine, and on plan we've got it here. This is the 3-foot pulley. That 3-foot pulley is attached to a 5-foot pulley with a great long leather belt, and that 5-foot pulley is taking the drive directly off the steam engine. This is the steam engine here in this position.
What's this?
And below it is the water well, which is bringing the water to the steam engine.
How far is that from here then to where the engine was?
That's about 7 metres
Well, look,
from the engine.
Look, Tony, we can measure this. We've got a tape here. If you take the other end, look.
Yeah.
And take it out in that direction over there. Out
7 metres.
Out into fresh air.
All right.
Yeah. And what we should have there then, you see, is...
7 metres.
Right. We should have there then the position of the well.
But what I don't understand is, what bits of archaeology can we find?
Right.
We're not going to find the actual engine because there's been a sand pit.
Yeah.
dug into here.
Let me do your drawing, because I think that's the easiest way to explain it. At the moment, we've got this big cliff behind us, right, and then this flat area in front.
Yeah.
And we know that originally the ground was like that, right?
Yeah.
And what's happened is they've quarried the sand out like that.
Yeah.
So all that's gone, and they've tipped a lot of rubbish over that area. And when originally the factory was, say, down here,
Yeah.
with a well down underneath it, now all that we're likely to have is the bottom bit of the well, because everything else has been quarried away from the top of it.
It's that particular bit on this original drawing, it's that bottom 5-odd feet of that sump of that well.
But the ground radar people have looked at that patio area there, and I think we should go down and now ask them whether they've got any signals in that area that might help us. Let's go and catch them now.
The ground radar appears to have registered something on the patio. It's showing up as black and white blobs on the screen. The problem is, it seems to be in the wrong place.
And in particular, you know that one that we were just looking at on the screen?
Yeah.
Is this one here. We've actually marked it, and this is where we think there are some good, strong features.
Yeah, but hang on, that is 1, 2, 3. That is about 3 yards from the spot that we've indicated.
Yeah, but you've got other things marked here, haven't you?
Right. What we've also done is marked out a secondary area here where there are other things going on, but they're not so strong as this. But there is a feature there, and we've marked it again with chalk. There is something there that's causing that.
So for once, everyone seems in agreement the well's under this patio, somewhere. But if we're going to find out if X marks the spot, we need to lift yet more concrete slabs. We're lucky we have yet another agreeable, if camera-shy, householder.
So what we've got here then is that idea.
Meanwhile, Mick was finding out more about the engine that would have sat over this well.
1823 this model was made.
And you can actually get it going. It's fantastic, isn't it?
This isn't it.
So something like this would have stood on the site at the bottom then?
Yeah.
What we're getting there, we hope, is the sump underneath from which it drew its water.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Up onto the beam engine at a higher level, which in fact has disappeared down there.
In the real machines, the boilers were massive, heating gallons of water to create the steam needed.
The situation you have here is steam is coming in through the main steam pipe here.
And this is the steam's coming through here then, is it?
Through here, yes.
Oh,
We're
that's
just
hot,
warming it
isn't it?
through there now. Into the top of the cylinder.
So this is the cylinder here.
Once in the cylinder, the steam cools down. It shrinks, creating a vacuum and pulling the piston down with it. This simple motion, transferred through a beam and a series of wheels, created power that could drive machinery.
Boulton needed this kind of power.
Yeah.
His factory, after he set it up in 1761, was driven by a water wheel.
Yeah.
And so in 1774, he brought James Watt down from Scotland and got him to install a simple beam engine to pump the water back up to the mill pool. And then James Watt gradually developed more sophisticated engines, which could also be used to directly power the machinery in the factory.
Yeah. But it's that transition to using the steam power that seems
Directly
to
to
be
drive
the
the
real
machinery.
crunch in
the application to rotative power driven off his flywheel here.
and that happens here with this partnership.
Yeah.
You know, in
in Birmingham,
1770s or
early 1780s.
Early 1780s.
So many things happened in Birmingham for the first time in the world in the 18th century.
Yeah.
It's 2:26 on day 2, and we've got a major crisis. In our big excavation, we discovered a 20th century petrol tank. So we've done what I think Time Team's never done before. We've sent for the fire brigade. Hi.
Oh, this is Steve, yeah.
Steve, do you think it actually is petrol in here?
It looks as if it could be, yes.
Can we excavate around it?
Carefully, yeah. What you've got to be careful of is, A, you don't produce any sparks, because there'll be a vapour on top of the liquid, so it's explosive atmosphere. So we need to seal the ventral so as none of the vapours can actually escape.
For those of us who've actually got to work here, is it dangerous?
There's always a danger because we don't know exactly what we're dealing with. There's a very strong hydrocarbon smell to it, as you can tell from the bit of pipe. Quite a strong hydrocarbon smell on that one. We need to find some wet clay and fill these 2 holes in with some wet clay for the time being.
Where the hell are we going to get wet clay on a Saturday?
On an Easter Saturday in Birmingham.
Hang about. Does it matter what sort of clay? That sort of clay, that'll do. That'll be sufficient. Hang on, Tony.
Seems a rather basic way of preventing a massive fire, but you're the governor.
It's Easter Monday and you haven't actually got many options out.
No. Don't try this at home unless you're accompanied by a fireman. With the trench made safe, we still have to remove several feet of 20th century rubble before we get down to the level of the manufactory's foundations. If we're to get the archaeology in the time left to us, we'll need every available pair of hands, even when they belong to a fireman. Meanwhile, across the road in the garden of 142, where X marked the spot, our engine well trench is already over a metre deep. But ground radar seemed pretty unimpressed with our efforts. Perhaps that's because the only thing we found at the depth they'd suggested was a bucket. Still, below that we've uncovered something else. Let's hope it's not another petrol tank.
We've just found this right at the bottom of the hole here. Do you think, what do you think of that? How does that fit with your idea of what you'd expect to be here if there was any of the remains left?
Well, it's a bit of a surprise because we're expecting something in brick and round like wells normally look, and to find a piece of metal with an upstanding piece which is straight is a bit of a surprise. But the fact that it's right down there, and it shouldn't be there, and we shouldn't be expecting anything at these low levels, suggests that we may have some sort of structure associated with the well, but at this stage it's difficult to say.
Could it be part of the pulley?
It could. No, not at this level because we're much too low. We're right down into the well level, so we're not expecting anything of the engine at all at this level. Just the well piercing the ground, going right down into the ground.
So really, this is a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, it is.
But definitely looks relevant to the manufacturer.
Yeah, there shouldn't be anything there at this level, so we'll wait and see.
Well, that's intriguing.
Very much so.
5 o'clock, and the excavations at the forecourt are now so deep we've had to shore the sides up to prevent them from collapsing in on fill. And we're still only removing 20th century rubble, so we're no nearer locating the remains of the front wall of the principal building or its corner. We've got part of a wall which could be part of the cutting out room, but over where the mint should be, we still have no clues as to the mystery metal in the engine well trench. Meanwhile, over the fence next door in her kitchen, Anita Nayar is preparing supper for 25 hungry archaeologists. But our curry will have to wait. I had an appointment with Anita's kids and some explaining to do. You'd have had a factory building there, right in the middle of your garden, and one over there, because your houses wouldn't have been there then. Do you know what they'd have been?
Yeah.
What?
They had a steam engine and like there was lots of noise and they used to make things.
That's right. And then there was this long shaft. And the shaft starts sort of somewhere over here, and it goes through your grand's garden, through your garden, through the next 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 garden, as far as that little birdhouse over there. And it would have been spinning round. And then over there by the birdhouse, there would have been this place where they would have made little round bits of metal for the mint. And then over here was the actual mint place, and they would have a big stamp, and they would stamp the head of the King of England on it, like thousands of times a day. So you'd hear that, the smoke would be coming, the trucks would be going, there would be noise of this big shaft spinning round and round and round. And then after about 50 or so years, they pulled the whole thing down, it all disappeared. And then later they started to build houses on top of it. And now most people, apart from you lot, don't even know there was a factory there at all, do they? 7:30 day 2, and a reasonably happy ground radar team pack up for the night. As they point out, in the end, we did find more than just a bucket where X marked the spot. Meanwhile, Anita's curry is cooked and ready to be transported to the local school hall, where Time Team are guests of honour at a street party. It's the end of day 2. It's been incredibly fraught. We've had firemen, we've had scaff bars supporting trenches, we've got 3 holes that look like bomb sites, and we've still got 3 mysteries. We've got this wall. Now, is it the front wall of Boulton's headquarters? We've got this, what we think is a well. Is it the site where the big engine was? And we still haven't found the end of the shaft. Where does it go to? What was there? Hopefully, we'll be able to find out the answers to all of those questions tomorrow. See you after the break. So,
it is a bit, but we've got to make a decision about where to put that trench in.
Start of day 3, and with just 11 hours to go, Mick and George are out early planning another trench. It's now clear we desperately need more archaeology if we're going to be able to locate the whole manufactory in the time left. So we've decided to search for the rest of the building that contained our cutting out room.
That's the piece of brickwork we find. So when we line up that, we end up with the Latchet building running across these gardens, across 150,
right,
148.
so across 2 or 3 gardens.
2 or 3.
All right, well, let's go and ask them and see if they'll wear us doing something this morning.
Yeah, I hope so.
If you're excavating in a field and you want to extend your search, you just dig another hole, don't you? But if you're excavating in someone's back garden and you want to look a bit further, then you've got to ask your next door neighbours and the people next door to them and the people next door to them. It's 8:33 on day 3 and we're on the knock asking for permissions.
There's a lot of button blanks in it. There's some lovely pearl knife handles. Good morning, Mr. Hook. Good morning. This is the crew from Time Team.
Hi, Mr. Hook. Good morning.
I've got 1 or 2 problems, and I was wondering whether we could come and have a look in your garden and possibly extend trenches.
Oh, that'll be all right.
He wants to know if you can dig a big hole in your flower bed, basically. That's what he's asking.
Yeah, as long as you fill the hole up.
No problem at all, Mr. Do you think we can come and have a quick look?
Oh, yeah.
Can we come through this way?
Thanks very much.
Okay.
How are we going to know where we want to dig?
Well, we were looking at the plan earlier, and we decided it ought to be this side of the garden rather than that side because the building's at an angle. And if we're going to get both walls, we've really got to go the side where there's more to shift, actually.
But can we dig under this greenhouse?
Yes, as long as we put it back as we find it.
Put this back as we found it.
Well, let's get the diggers cracking on it, because we want to get on with this trench, don't we?
Okay.
Time is short.
You're not going to like this one at all.
What are we doing there?
We're going to dig a trench in this guy's garden. So we've got a contract for the scrap metal first.
Oh, right, good.
Right. So we've got to scramble down here, because this is the only way in. We need your plan, George, to see pretty well where we start.
Bring it down.
It had also been an early start for Phil, who's back cleaning up the trench that was Dylan's dad's patio.
Hi, Phil. Hello, Cringer.
How are you getting on here? What have you found?
Doing really, really well.
Oh, yeah, brilliant. Wow. What are you standing on?
The wall of the Latchet Works.
Oh, this is the Latchet Works. I'm slightly disorientated here because I've not been out.
Right. Well, you know the tunnel that comes across from there.
Yeah.
And yesterday we were talking about it coming in underneath the conservatory.
Mm-hmm.
And when we opened up this area, first of all we got this, what appeared like a plinth of bricks.
Yeah, yes.
With very, very nice cut-off ends at both ends. And we thought, oh, maybe it was a machine base.
Yes.
But when we actually started digging down at the ends of it, we realised that there was a whole series of brick courses underneath it, and there's a nice bedding trench. So all of this now becomes the wall of the building.
Can you identify which building it is?
Well, you ought to have a look at this too, Dylan, because this is kind of, here's the Latchet Works in here. And I've been talking to George this morning, and the corner of the building that he thought he had is in fact there, so that we've got to shift.
It's a sort of internal wall.
That's right. We've got to shift everything about 14 feet that way. Now, if we shift that along 14 feet and we make a slight alignment downwards, it means that the middle cutting room here is virtually slap bang under 154. So the cutting room is bang underneath the middle of your sitting room.
So we've got to ask my parents if we can take the carpet up and have a dig in there, have we? I don't know whether they'll...
There's something that I don't understand. The room where they punched out all those little discs to make the coins out of...
The blanks, yes.
...is called the Latchet Works.
Ah, that was its original function. They'd invented a new kind of patent buckle which you could move from shoe to shoe, rather than, and therefore go with fashion, as it were, rather than replacing your shoes every time.
In fact, we've got one of them here, which you can have a look at, which just gives you an idea of how these buckles worked. I mean, here's actually a latchet as made by Boulton and Smith, who was his partner in this business. But rather sadly, the things went out of fashion rather quickly, and the building we're talking about now actually only was empty for nearly 20 years.
And so they decided to use it as a cutting-out room. But
just
why?
that central portion.
What I don't understand is why they built the cutting-out room in there, which meant that they had to have this incredibly long shaft down there. Why didn't they just stick it here somewhere where it was nearer the engine?
But I don't think you were going to throw away a building that cost you several £1,000s willy-nilly. I mean,
it's cheaper to build the culvert and the shaft.
Much cheaper to actually build a tunnel and shove a shaft in it and get on with it, rather than try and keep going, try and build something new, which there's no space for without demolition.
And that's the detailed plan of what they ended up with, 1825.
That's right. Here is the circle of the cutting-out room, which fits into that centre of the building, which is here in the centre of the Latchet building.
And then your power came in from your underground drive shaft and was transferred up and then distributed to your various cutting-out machines around in the building.
The plans may exist on paper, but the remains of this fantastic steam-powered cutting-out room are lost forever under the house. Our only hope is that we have more luck finding the rest of the Latchet building. That's if we can get the garden next door but 2 cleared in time. Midday, and Phil's back in the forecourt trench searching for the principal building. And he's found another wall.
How are you getting on down there, Phil?
Brilliant.
How's it
Doing
looking?
really good. Right, there you go. Yeah, look. Here's the base of the wall.
Oh, lovely.
And it's been chopped off there.
Yeah.
But it still carries on. You see that course of bricks?
Yeah.
that runs right the way through along our trench.
Is that coming
right
through
to
under
the
here
edge.
then?
Sorry?
It's going to come through under here,
It looks
is
like
it?
it's still running.
Right.
But the interesting thing, you see here, this is our natural.
Yeah.
This is what has been cut away.
Right.
To build the foundations against.
Right.
So this here is all still rubble and fill. So that's got to be basement. That's got to be the inside of the building.
It's going to go down and down.
That's going
that
on,
side, is it?
carrying on straight down.
Right.
But you see here, we've got a cut. Can you see that in amongst the planks?
Yep.
Going round the corner there. And I just wonder whether that is, we're not actually just coming onto the corner.
Oh, right. Yesterday we were predicting that the corner would be about here from this map work that we did. It would come to here and then go that way.
I've got a feeling, I'm almost certain that these bricks are running out. I think we've not got, yep, there's nothing more after that.
Right.
We've got as far as that course of bricks goes.
We've located the front wall of our principal building, but we still need the corner if Sue is to know exactly where to place it on the map we're building up from our survey work down on the street. None of our worries about finding enough foundations seem to have affected Dylan, who's giving other locals guided tours of the sites. But below in the garden of 150, where we're searching for the walls of the Latchet Works, we're now in a desperate race against time. And 4 doors down, our engine well trench is so deep, workers had to stop while it's shored up. Now seems as good a time as any to see exactly what would have stood over this well, courtesy of Birmingham Science Museum.
This is, in fact, the oldest working steam engine in the world.
It is, yes. It's 217 years old.
Fantastic. Wonderful.
What am I watching?
What are you watching? Right, you've got the seam end there, the valve gear, and an enormous pump at the other end. This was a low-lift water supply engine for the canal companies, but it's like the first engines that Boulton had put in at Soho to lift water back up above his water wheels again. So it's a water pumping engine.
What I find fascinating is that this was built only 4 years after Boulton attracted James Watt down from Scotland.
Yeah.
And on the development of these engines, the entire Boulton well was in fact built. This was the moment where they started really to coin the money.
Yeah. You feel that thud as it's, the pump's pulling that end, is that?
Yes.
What actually makes the thump, Jim?
The thump is the valve in the bottom of the pump.
Right.
It's lifting a ton of water every stroke. So you can imagine, you've got a ton of water sitting there, it's going to smack the valves closed quite promptly and it produces that clonk.
Can we get up the top,
Yes.
Jim, and see the actual beam working?
Oh, yes, yes.
I think I'd like to see that.
Which way do we go?
Up this way.
This is extraordinary. Why does a beam engine have a beam?
Part of it is because it's operating a pump which is vertical, it's drawing out of a shaft. Those rods have got to be pulled up, and the only way you could see to do it was to pull down on the other end of the beam across the top. And so in this case we're pulling down, and you see we've got chains on each end around the curved pieces, and that enables the rods to move vertically without any side movement. And they stuck with this design almost through to the end of last century.
It's incredible the way this whole framework shudders every time that valve closes down there.
Imagine what it must have been like to have one of these engines and all the little side things coming off it.
Yeah.
In that area of those kids' back garden.
Yeah, and we've really got just the bottom layer, haven't we? All the rest of it's all sort of gone.
Back at the site, there's just a few hours left to find the Latchet Works and Mint buildings that housed huge machinery like the engine we'd just seen. And over at the forecourt trench, Phil's luck has just run out. We're really thwarted. This is the petrol tank that we found yesterday, and over here is the wall that we've excavated. But unfortunately over here, we've just discovered another big petrol tank, and here there's a flipping gas main, so we're not going to be able to extend our archaeology this way at all. Now, we have established that this wall is definitely the outside of the main factory building. How do we know it's the outside wall? Because we've got natural earth abutting it this way, But back there, we've got evidence of cellar buildings. So it's definitely the outside wall. That means we can locate where the factory was that way, but we haven't found the return where it goes around the corner, because that presumably is under this petrol tank. So that means we can't establish precisely its position that way. And in addition to that, we can't dig our hole anymore underneath where we think the engine was, because the hole has got so deep that it's in danger of toppling in on all our archaeologists. So that means this afternoon we're going to have to limit ourselves to priority number 3, which is basically to find out what's at the end of the shaft and to learn what we can about the latchet works.
Truth, Corinza, when I came in here last, this was a rather overgrown garden.
Still is a rather overgrown garden with a large hole in it.
Gone mad, haven't you?
Well,
it's pretty impressive, though, isn't it?
It's great, isn't it? We found the extension of the tunnel for the shaft.
Yeah.
You can see it coming through here. We're extending the trench up that way to try and find the wall of the latchet works, because the shaft went into the latchet works.
Right.
Hopefully somewhere less than 5 metres in that direction.
Somewhere about where Mickey is ought to be the
well,
wall. Well,
5 metres at most. You mentioned finds. We've actually got some metal coin blanks there.
That's nice, isn't it?
They're wonderful, aren't they?
These are already cut out, ready to be stamped.
That's
you've got
right.
a bit of the bit that they cut out from as well.
From, yeah.
Like that.
Why haven't we found more than just a few coin blanks? I know if I put my hand down the back of my sofa or pull up a few floorboards, there's a lot of old soot that's gathered there in the previous few years.
Yes, but you're not regularly losing bits of gold and silver, and what they do, even today in the jury quarters, they sweep up all the sweepings and they filter the washing up water, and they send it all off to the refinery and retrieve the gold and silver.
So he'd recycle, but for financial reasons rather than any other reasons?
Very much so. And in fact, the waste that you get from copper after you cut out the coin blanks was again thrown back into the refining pot. And we've only found 5 or 6 coining blanks. And do remember that he was making 40,000 coins an hour.
Wow. Down at the trench, and just in time, Phil's arrived and found, guess what?
That's where the wall was, presumably.
That's right.
Going through.
See, look at the difference in the soil here. There's so much, that's all a dark sort of topsoil fill. There's no demolition rubble in that. And then there's that beautiful cut down in there with all that demolition rubble. That's it. Jump into his trench.
What they've actually done is dug a hole and taken the wall out, in fact.
Taken the wall out.
And this is all the mortar and so on that's left.
In that stuff at all.
We might just have something in the bottom, but otherwise, you know, that's going to be the line of our wall that Corinza was just saying that we could do with now.
So, as well as the shaft, we now have the exact locations for 2 of the walls of the latchet works. But time's defeated us before we can find the well and position its steam engine and the mint. We're starting to pack up. We've drawn and recorded all our finds, and now, to make the deeper trenches safe, we'll have to take down all the shoring and backfill them before we leave. Still, some people just won't admit it's time to go.
Mick, I thought you were backfilling. This hole's got bigger, not smaller.
Well, I was backfilling, but I've come to record it and I found a large hole full of very loose brick rubble. As we're looking for a well...
Well, this is almost exactly where George and Nick said they thought the well was.
Well, I've been able to get my pole at the moment. It's sort of collapsing as we speak, but I've actually managed to get this down an extra 4 feet into the ground.
4 feet below the bottom, so we're looking at maybe 2 metres,
10?
roughly 2 metres 10 to the bottom.
To the bottom.
Well, that's what, George, didn't you say a maximum of 5 feet or thereabouts at the bottom of the well?
A maximum of 4 feet, it was going to be down about 5 feet.
So that fits, I mean, it's about 6 maybe?
About 6 feet, and it's more or less the position that we predicted it might be.
Are you happy that might be the engine well?
I'm happy at this stage that this might be our well, the one we've been looking for 3 days.
The discovery of the well and its steam engine has finally allowed us to align the missing piece of the 18th century complex with the modern landscape. Matthew Boulton's manufactory is back on the map. The wall Phil found at the forecourt, along with Stuart's survey, gives us confidence to site the principal building with its workshops and accommodation blocks accurately on the modern factories. And across the road, in today's gardens, stood the latchet works, with its cutting-out room powered by the long shaft running from the engine inside the mint. A mint that would take coin blanks like those we found and stamp on intricate designs, turning them into currency used the world over. If our task was to find exactly where the various mechanisms were in the factory, we've achieved it.
I think so, yeah, and more to the point, I was talking to Dylan and he was saying if he'd have won the National Lottery yesterday, he'd have bought all these houses up by this morning, knocked them all down, and then an archaeological park laid out. So he feels very inspired about the remains under the gardens.
Well, maybe that's Dylan's application to the Millennium Fund.
Could be. I mean, it is a site that's important enough for that.